Most public discourses and advertisements promote dairy as a major source of calcium, vitamin D, and other nutrients. For instance, in 1946, the National School Lunch Act was signed, which mandated that each meal include half to 2 pints of whole milk. Also, in 1990, the Fluid Milk Promotion Act was passed, which stated that fluid milk products are basic foods and are a primary source of required nutrients such as calcium and otherwise are a valuable part of the human diet, and mandated that fluid milk products must be readily available and marketed efficiently to ensure that the people of the United States receive adequate nourishment. Subsequently, 1993 was the year that the Got Milk campaign began. Is this big push for dairy or milk warranted?
Now that we better understand calcium, let's uncover the science of other nutrients in milk. First, let's consider vitamin D. Consumers often hear that cow's milk is an excellent source of vitamin D. They might think vitamin D is naturally occurring in cow's milk. But while industry tells us that dairy is a great source of vitamin D, it's important to understand that all food products with vitamin D are fortified. Vitamin D is naturally found in sunlight, so we can get our vitamin D by just going outside. Some people might worry that they can't get enough sunlight to meet the recommended intake, but there are fortified grains, orange juice, soy, rice milk, all different foods that can do just the job.
Now let's talk about lactose. You might be lactose intolerant, or maybe you know someone who is. What is lactose anyway? Lactose is a form of sugar found in cow's milk and breast milk. Many people have a hard time digesting the sugar into adulthood. Roughly 65% of adults become lactose intolerant after infancy, a statistic from the NIH or the National Institute of Health. This translates to roughly 6 or 7 out of 10 adults, but large dairy conglomerates such as the National Dairy Council and Dairy Management Incorporated would like you to think otherwise. Dairy Good, a website run by Dairy Management Inc., states that 1 out of 10 adults is affected by lactose intolerance. Eat Confidently, a website run by the National Dairy Council, is cited as the source for this statistic. The problem? Neither website offers a clear citation of any research conducted by a third-party or non-dairy affiliated source when they claim that only 10% of adults are lactose intolerant. They tell us to push through. They even recommend to drink more milk to get over the intolerance or find the sweet spot of dairy consumption. Crazy, right? Unfortunately, government organizations like the USDA have pushed dairy down our throats regardless of lactose intolerance. Why are we told that we must drink milk when it isn't even necessary for humans after the age of weaning? Instead of suggesting non-dairy sources for calcium, protein, fat, and fortified vitamin D, the USDA is pushing for producing lactose-free dairy products to help populations of Americans who cannot digest lactose without discomfort or intolerance. This makes even less sense because making lactose-free milk requires milk to go through an even more involved process to eliminate the lactose, leading to a more processed product. Of course, the USDA backing the dairy industry is no surprise, as the industry itself has been significantly growing since the '08 recession. To throw a number out, from 2009 to 2014, dairy product production revenue rose from $82 billion US to $102 billion US.
Now let's talk about protein. When a consumer searches protein and dairy in the search bar, the first source that pops up is WebMD. WebMD loves to highlight the beneficial proteins in milk and describe milk as a healthy protein food source. Consumers are bombarded with the nutrient layout in a glass of milk. They're told that protein in milk can help them build and repair their muscle tissue. What if a person's wondering about the negative impacts dairy products will have on their bodies? Consumers would have to dig very deep to find warnings against consuming animal protein. Research suggests that osteoporotic bone fractures are highest in countries consuming the most animal protein. These studies conclude that bones are better served by limiting the animal protein intake and attending to calcium balance and protein intake through fruit and vegetable sources. One major source of animal protein from dairy products is whey protein. Whey protein is often added to protein powders for protein shakes or protein bars. But what is whey anyway? Whey, also known as lactose serum, is a liquid obtained after the separation of milk, fat, and casein from whole milk. Because of the large volume of dairy production, the dairy industry is always looking for economical approaches to using whey through value-added products.
Let's think about the long-term effects of dairy consumption. Cancer is a broad term that applies to unusually rapid cell division and tissue growth. How does cancer relate to dairy consumption? There is a hormone that is upregulated in the human body after drinking cow's milk, IGF-1, or insulin-like growth factor. While this may be ideal for a calf meant to grow from 50 to 1,000 pounds in a short period of time, recent research shows that there may be an increased risk of prostate cancer in those who drink cow's milk in childhood, though only a handful of studies to date have looked into the association between the two, and more research is needed, especially longitudinal studies that follow children into adulthood. Also, milk is the main dietary source of D-galactose, a byproduct of digesting lactose, and several animal studies have shown that chronic exposure to D-galactose can lead to chronic inflammation and increased oxidative stress. This increase leads to a shortened lifespan, as well as acting to mediate most chronic diseases such as cancer, diabetes, and cardiovascular diseases, because oxidative stress can activate a variety of transcriptional factors. A high milk intake has been found in both males and females to be associated with higher mortality and fracture rates, and with higher levels of oxidative stress and inflammatory biomarkers.